welcome to the Day One podcast. I'm Brett Nord.
I'm Adam Daly.
We are back for another episode.
Yeah, exciting. Got a few things to talk about and a special guest today.
We do. In fact, he's no stranger to the podcast. We've had Mike on episode back in, it was May of last year is when I talked to Mike.
Awesome.
And we're back. We actually featured him on episode 21. So, again, no stranger to the podcast.
Yep, and this time we've got him live here. We're doing a remote podcasting thing today. I know a lot of people do this, and they seem to make it work. So we're going to do our best as well and have a good time today talking with Mike with his day one use. And, so that's kind of what we've been feeling out here as far as the show goes. We love talking with users and getting to know their habits, their tips, their tutorials, because as we've talked about, there's no wrong way to journal. And sometimes, getting your feet wet and get started is the best way to get it, So we like hearing different perspectives and different ways to do things because I think that helps all of us do better, right?
Right. Well, I'd like to introduce Mike St. Pierre from New Jersey. Again, we've had Mike on the podcast on episode 21. That was way back in January. We were talking about kind of the new year. And I talked to Mike even before that, like I said, back in March of 2018. I can't believe it's been that long, Mike. Can you?
It's going very, very quickly, no question.
It has. This should be part of our Where Are They Now segments. Are you still using Day One? And if so, how are you doing differently?
Yeah, it's like when you open the door and, who's behind door number one?
That's right.
Right. This week, as far as updates go, I don't have a ton of things to talk about. Obviously, the Instagram thing has gone live, and we've got a lot of great feedback about that. People are pretty excited. And yes. It seems like the consensus is now, let's do it for all of the social media platforms. And I totally get that. That makes sense to me, as I've harped on that before. But it's not on immediate roadmap stuff, but it is something the team is considering and looking into as far as like other social media imports. So your Twitter, your Facebook, and stuff like that. It is something that's on our minds, but not on the immediate roadmap. Development continues on the back end as far as our web stuff goes, web and back end server things, because that obviously we want to be as secure and as safe as possible to keep your memories. So there's a lot of work being done there. And I know the iOS and Mac client teams are also working on a lot of performance issues on those devices so that, it's running smoothly. We've had a few reports of like high CPU usage and stuff like that on Mac. So we're looking into those and making sure that gets resolved quickly. So these next couple of builds may be, or updates on the App Store may be a lot of performance things that we want to get fixed and make sure that it's top notch and running smoothly. Some bigger updates that are coming down the line. Obviously, people have seen the hints at video. We're still working on that. There's a lot to consider as far as either time or size restraints and stuff like that. Obviously, you can't upload the entire Star Wars franchise to your Day One journals. That would probably be a little too much. And the other thing is templates. I know we've had some good feedback about templates. Right now, they are disabled in the reminder feature, but they're coming back in a much better way. In that, the idea is the templates will sync between devices, and you'll be able to invoke them at any time and not just within the reminder framework. So you start a new entry, tap that paperclip icon, and you can load in any template that you may have created in the past, and it's going to be great. I'm really excited about that. So those are the big things. So coming down the line, team is still working hard on those things. So
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and
Thanks,
Android.
Adam.
And Android. I sometimes I feel like we don't talk about that as much, and that's fair feedback. We've had some people respond to that. We do have an engineer dedicated to the Android project, working on making it a better experience than it is right now. We know there are a few issues with it. Those have been reported, and the team is working on that. So coming. Thank you so much for all of your feedback. Thank you, users. We love it. And we try to do our best to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, and last ep we had just watched WWDC, and now we've had more experience or more use with the news and the excitements of the new development of that. So Yeah. Look for some great stuff coming.
There's a lot of stuff. One of my favorite things about WWDC is obviously the announcements. As a consumer, I get really excited about the new things that iOS 13 can do and Catalina. What I love actually seeing, though, is our team, our engineers sitting and watching the sessions that happen all throughout that week and, getting better at what they do, learning the new stuff that's coming out, and finding the best way to implement it in our app. So, yeah, WWDC awesome. Is great. I love it. Yeah. Okay. Should we talk to Mike? That's all I've got for this week. So stay tuned for more.
Yeah. Mike, why don't you tell us about yourself? Again, it's not the first time if users have listened to that app that we talked with you before, but tell us about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me on. And I continue to be a faithful, happy day one user. So I live here in New Jersey. My name is Mike St. Pierre. My wife and I have 4 kids, and professionally, I'm both an adjunct professor at a local college, and my primary work is I'm an executive director of a nonprofit called the Catholic Campus Ministry Association. So we support folks who work on college campuses on about 350 campuses around the United States.
Wow, that's awesome.
And you have been super busy since we last talked.
I've been busy. I'm booked. I don't know about that. I mean, I didn't say it's a good book, but I did write a book. And it is purchasable on Amazon. So for whatever that's worth, it has been really fun.
That's great. Adam, we seem to talk to a lot of folks that write books.
There's a pattern here. Either I need to get writing a book or I need the inspiration.
There we go.
But maybe it starts with journaling, right? Writing down your ideas.
Doesn't hurt.
Didn't Steinbeck have like a notebook or something like that he always carried with him?
Yeah, it's a common book for sure. That's awesome. Well, Mike, if first off, I'd love to know your process, like your routine in journaling, and then also if it's changed since we last talked. You've added something new since then.
So spoiler alert, it hasn't really changed. So I'm a morning journaler, and I use day one religiously, no pun intended, as part of my morning prayer time. And so I was looking back. I have maybe 7 or 8 different journals, notebooks, but my main journal has 2,557 entries. And my first entry was 7 years ago on my wife's birthday. And so, I keep cranking these suckers out, and usually they're brief. I would say 1 to 10 minutes. And a lot of times, guys, I'm journaling for myself just to get stuff out of my head. It's like the old David Allen, getting things done. I don't go back and look over, what I did this day. I need to start the day with kind of a clear head, and day one is my vehicle for doing that. And I have terrible handwriting. So even if I wanted to do it by hand, I couldn't, so it's seriously an important part of my day.
That's awesome.
That's, I was just thinking about that. Sorry to jump in here, but we definitely make time for things, right? If I ever, and I'm judging myself on this, I'll just be honest with you. Like if I remember I'd love to do that, but I just don't have time. But then I make time for other things. It is all a matter of prioritization, right? It's all a matter of, okay, what are the most important things to me, right? It's the rocks and sand and water in a jar. Have you ever done that experiment where you put in the small things first and then you see, it fills up very quickly. But if you start putting in the big priorities first, and then you can start filling in the gaps with other things. Like that makes total sense to me. And I think it's something I need to improve on is, obviously you've got a routine, Mike. Is that true? I mean, this is a regular thing for you.
Yeah, this is just for me like the equivalent to making a cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah,
I don't think about it anymore, and I think the other thing for me that's quite helpful is just seeing the colors of the days when I write. It's just a little mind trick, and I can look back over a month and say, I had a good prayer month last month, or I only missed 3 days or something like that. So it all kind of goes together. But yeah, I'm just in a good groove now where I'm not really thinking about it too much.
Right. Yeah, but you also make time for it too, right? In most cases, you're like, this is what I'm choosing to do at this time, instead of, like me turning on The Office on my iPhone or something to watch, just to, have a little mind-numbing entertainment in the background or something.
Yeah, well, I like The Office too. I just don't want to start my day with The Office.
Might get you on a bad foot there.
I was thinking about it. Why, for me, my favorite computer is my iPad.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, to use my iPad and day one is like a match made in heaven. It's just, I freaking love this iPad. I really do. And if I could do everything on it, I would. But I think that, and I rarely use day one on the Mac or on my iPhone. So I think there's a little something about that too. I like using the app, and I really love the iPad, and thanks be to God, they work together.
Mm-hmm. And wait till iPad OS, right?
Oh man. Brett, I jumped in.
I did too. We both knew we would. We talked about it. Nope, I'm going to wait. And like, not going to wait. Well, I waited. It's just relatively not very long. But it's going to be great. The stuff we'll be able to do on the iPad.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Can't wait. I have not installed it yet out of fear of crashes and that sort of stuff.
You're smart. Yeah. Good. So if you don't mind, Mike, I'd love to hear a little more about, so when you talk about for your work, I know on the last time I talked to you, you mentioned you had so many journals. And so would you go through your journals, personal and for work?
Yeah, of course. So my main journal is just called Journal, and that's just the one I use every day. I have one called Blog Post Ideas, where if I might just kind of map out what I want the blog post to be, and then I'll just send that over to Squarespace. I have one that's kind of defunct for newsletters for my email list, but I use more Todoist, I guess, to do that now. I have one called Podcast, where I have all my show notes from work conversations, and I'll have, the Mac open and then the iPad on the side, and the iPad's got day one open. I've got one called Health and Wellness. I have no idea what's in that. I have one called Thrown Out / Given Away. And I am semi-faithful to this, when I give something away or throw something kind of something of value out. I like that. I like I don't like stuff, so I want to die with nothing except just the clothes on my back. So I like that. I have one called Mission, Vision, and Values, which is kind of like, 30,000 foot dreaming kind of thing. And then I have one prayers, where it's just, kind of famous prayers that maybe I want to look back at. And so those are my journals.
Those are great. I love it. Love the diversity. You're not just using it for one purpose.
Yeah, a lot of different applications, and that's all, definable by you. I've had conversations with users on Twitter and stuff like that. Like, what do I do? How do I organize myself? And I'm like, that's the beauty of it. It's all up to you. It's how you want to define it and what makes sense. And certainly we can glean from other people and get their great ideas. But ultimately it comes down to what do I find important? What do I want to document? Or, even we've had conversations where people just dump everything they can into it and then later sort through it and, how it makes sense to them. And that way they've got whatever data they need.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of an agnostic.
Sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's kind of an agnostic tool. You use it how it's useful to you, and for me, it's for 7 years. It's been really useful.
That's awesome. If I remember last time we talked, you don't use tags, right? So you focus more on the journals.
Yeah, I don't use tags. When I'm feeling really daring, I'll try to use a little bit of Markdown, but then I forget. So, yeah, I just write.
Speaking of writing, was day one a tool that you used in writing your book, reflection?
It was not. So I used a combination of Evernote, Web Clipper, just to capture research, and then I would organize that by notebooks. Scrivener for the long form stuff, and then Apple Pages for kind of the finishing touches. So yeah, I don't have any secrets to writing, my own book, except just put the butt in the seat and type, and don't disappoint your publisher with these deadlines. That's it. I mean, I'm not a scholar, but I can follow rules pretty well, and that worked for me. And it's pretty satisfying to have something out there in the world.
Nice. Tell us your favorite feature of day one.
Let's see. Favorite feature probably would be the calendar, if that's what you call it. That bottom right little calendar icon. I just love looking back over the month. And when I visit a faith coach like once a month, and just talk through stuff. And I always look at day one, ahead of time. It's not like you can measure everything, but at least I can say, you know what, I showed up for these days, and I can pretty much prove it because I have an entry in day one. And, I would love to, I can pray, that's something I can talk about prayer, write about prayer. I can pray. I wish I had those same kind of muscle memory habits with exercise and things like that. I don't yet. I haven't given up, but I just find like day one, it gives me a little measuring stick, a little anchor that when I go talk to my faith coach, I can say, you know what, this was a great week. And it's pretty much right here, objectively I can show you. So, it's a great app, guys. I love paying for it. I love supporting the work you guys do. And I think that, it's pretty evident from a podcast like this, you guys care about your users, and, you come across very humbly. And I think the product the product speaks for itself, but I think you guys do a lot of other kind of value add things that show users that, there's real people behind this app, and it's getting better and better.
With that, it's a wrap. I don't think we can say anything better, Adam.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was very kind. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's what most of us here have found in common with each other is we're building a product we're passionate about. I've had a lot of jobs in the past, and some of them are you just go in, you come out. It's a day-to-day 9-to-5 job, but here we're making a product that actually can make people's lives better. And that to me makes me have some ownership into the app, ownership into what we're doing here, and really invested in what we're, the development of the app and what our users use it for. So thank you. That really means a lot to us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it does. I have a note that you mentioned using photos last time. So tell us how you do entries of photos.
I still use photos, and I find that really fun. I'm always taking pictures. I think I probably mentioned my dog last time, but I have 4 kids. So between 4 kids and a dog, there's a lot of pictures in our house, and we're sharing stuff and chat and all that. And it's just a little moment of delight, just adding a little photo to a daily entry. And you just realize, there's so much to be grateful for, whatever a person's faith tradition or no faith tradition. I mean, we get to do this stuff, and I find photos sort of remind me, to be grateful. And I just, my life has a lot of purpose, a lot of meaning. And if I can remember that just through a simple little photo, it seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Is that your main journal, or is that a separate journal for photo gratitude kind of thing?
That's just all plugged into that main journal.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And I wouldn't say I probably every third day or so, I'll see what photos did I take in the prior day. There's one other feature that I do really like, it's just the fingerprint unlock, to protect the journals. When I journal, I want to be kind of unfettered and honest with God. I don't want to hold stuff back, With that said, I also don't want other people reading that kind of honest. Sometimes that's a rant. Sometimes that's very polite, So, for me, that fingerprint is really important because I'm not I'm just doing this to try to become a better person. And this happens to be one of the tools I'm using to do that. So that's a great feature. I don't know if anybody's ever, mentioned that, but it's pretty important. It's sort of like a little lock on a box or a house or something. And I probably wouldn't use day one, if I didn't have that ability. I don't want to hold anything back, in my journal. I want to just be really honest. And one of the things I write about in the book is, the book is all about prayer. So, I talk about a good prayer is an honest one. And if you're being honest, it's like a regular human relationship. Sometimes it's not going to be good news, and not every feeling is a real chipper one, so that, I think that protection for me is really valuable. But
do you see yourself publishing any of this stuff later on, or passing it on to kids?
About day one?
Well, no, I just mean like your journals. Like you can print them out or export to PDF and maybe pass those on. Is that something? Maybe not that journal specifically, but you do have a few of them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. I mean, one of the, I guess, sort of life experiments that I'm using now. So we're recording this. It's summer 2019, and my kids are off from school. And the other day, and I've been like preaching to them, you can't sleep until 10 o'clock. You have to start the day well. Don't let anybody steal your most valuable hours of the day, that kind of thing. And the other day, my 15-year-old, he said, "Dad, I think I want to get better at this." And I said, "Well, if you want to apprentice, you have to do what I tell you to do, And so it was, okay, start with a power beverage, So for him, that was tea, which he hated, but, sit in this chair on the porch. Okay. All right. Tell God 5 things you're thankful for. Okay, great. Read this Bible passage. Okay, great. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. And that I am really passionate about helping people kind of start their day on purpose, which is going to look really different, for every different person, no question. But, yeah, I hadn't thought of that, Adam. That would be kind of fun, just to maybe map that out a little bit more. And, maybe I could use day one to help me.
Yeah, that's one thing that's usually on my mind is, who's my audience? Obviously, sometimes you're right. It's just you and getting stuff off your chest or whatever it may be. I guess my hope eventually was, and this is not to project or anything, but my hope was like pass that on eventually, and then my kids can really see, what was going on in old dad's psyche or whatever.
I think that'd be a bestseller book. My Life, Adam Daly.
Mediocre Parenting by Adam Daly. I'm just kidding.
It's always a work in progress.
That's right.
So, Mike, I just have a few last questions. One would be as far as reflection. So you talked a little bit about some journals entries that you're writing that you really don't go back on, and then some others that you do read with your faith coach. So talk a little bit about that reflection.
Yeah, so I have a list, I guess, in things, and it's it's called Faith Coach. And then as the month goes on, I can just plug stuff into that, and that might be super simple stuff. You notice something on a Wednesday, and you just think, this would be a good thing to talk about with them. Okay, put it in there. So I'll review that before I go see Sam's father, Terry. I'll review that before I go to see him, not to like manipulate or drive the conversation, but more just, you got to talk about something. So you don't want to just show up empty-handed. But then I'll also go back, and I won't look at the specific entries in day one, but I will look at that calendar tab and just say, like I'm looking now, and this month has been a very, very hectic month with work, in a good way. So I missed a few entries here. Last month, I think I only missed 4, and the month before that, 5. So that kind of stuff is helpful going to talk to him, because I can say, I'm actually doing fine. I'm doing okay. My journal looks a little more scattered than usual, but here's why. And, it's not like the end of the world. But I find that helpful. So kind of the specific items and things, just that list of topics to talk about with them. And then looking back over day one to see just, I mean, the colors are the colors here. I mean, you can't argue with it. And I either did an entry or I didn't on those days.
Yes, that's great. Last question would be any advice, tips, tricks to the community. I remember last time we talked, you waxed poetic about not beating yourself up if you don't, have a complete entry, or not trying to be perfect in your entry. So you can use that one again, or if you've got something new.
I just think stick-to-itiveness is such a virtue. I mean, like I'm only speaking for myself, but I'll try something once. If I don't like it, I just give up. And I think with journaling, it's a matter of not trying to be perfect or think too much about it. It's just doing it. And if you need to set a little reminder in Google Calendar, whatever, just something that'll prompt you to do it every day. I think there's such power in that, just that momentum. And I talk about this a lot in my work on the side is free will is overrated, in my opinion. We spend so much energy trying to help people work harder. And I don't believe in it anymore. I really am a big evangelist for momentum, which is typically habits and routine, as small as they might be. I just think there's such power. So, I mean, I still believe you shouldn't beat yourself up over it. I just think it's trying to just be really faithful to these tiny little things. And it might be as tiny as just a little check-in, on day one on your Apple Watch, or a moment of gratitude, and then you capture it in day one. I mean, I just think that really adds up over time. And, we live in a kind of a divisive world, and everybody has strong opinions on social media and all that. And I just find the more we can have these little stopping points of gratitude, I think it makes us all better. And I find that day one is very helpful with that. So I don't know if that helps, but that's this year's thought, Brett.
I like it. I like it. We'll just have yearly thoughts with Mike.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It was a pleasure to have you back. So much better dynamic when it's live like this, relatively live, having you where we can talk a little bit more in depth. So, and it's great to get an update on you.
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much. Listeners, thank you for your time and for joining us on this week's episode of the Day One Podcast. As always, if you need help, check out the links below for our help guides and how to contact support, because we'll be there if you need us. Stay tuned for some great updates, everyone. We're really excited about what's going to happen in Mac OS 10.15 Catalina. We're excited about iPad OS. We're excited about iOS 13. All of these exciting things are going to help. Oh, I didn't even mention watchOS stuff, because they're allowing us to install independent apps, independent of the iPhone. So that's really cool. The idea is, and something that we're looking into now, again, whatever I say on here is not binding on the company, just know that. But they're looking into ways of having your Day One on your watch sync up to the cloud without having to be connected to your iPhone, which I know is going to be a big deal for some people. We've had users contact us about, I'm on my walk or I'm on my run, I want to record some audio and have it sync immediately. That makes total sense, and the technology is getting there. So exciting things coming down the pipeline. We're excited to work on those things. So thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you in another couple weeks.
Yeah, thanks again.